Hello and welcome to Complexity Limits Guide to the Mythic Shad'har the Insatiable encounter, written and produced by Crzypck in coordination with Complexity Limit, brought to you by GameStop. Just as a note before we begin, this video is entirely focused on the Mythic changes and strategy for this fight. We are not going to be discussing the basics from Heroic. If you want to learn more about the basics from Heroic with how the fight works, please visit the video for that on our YouTube channel. We recommend 2 tanks, 4 or 5 healers, and 13 or 14 DPS for this fight. This encounter is certainly doable with 4 healers, as you'll be able to get through phase 2 much more quickly. However, 5 healing may work better for your guild, as it'll help you stay more stable throughout the entire course of the fight. The most important part of this fight on Mythic is properly handling living miasma. When one of these spawns on Mythic, the target it fixates will now get a 100% slow debuff. The whole key to actually killing this fight is managing that slow debuff so the fixated target can actually run away to the far side of the room and allow the raid to adjust to the opposite side of where the miasma is going to explode. The debuff can be countered by just about any movement speed effect in the game. Things like the Death Knight passive, Warlock's Burning Rush, and Hunter's Post Haste all work. The single most powerful ability, however, is Blessing of Freedom. If you have 2 paladins, you can use the freedom for every single spawn of miasma throughout the entire fight. You should absolutely get 2 paladins in your raid if it's at all possible. Even if one of them is under geared, the value of freedom is still going to be worth the sacrifice. The other major change to the fight for Mythic is the Hungry mechanic. Shad'har gains a stack of Hungry every few seconds. At 10 stacks, he gets Hangry and begins dealing 250% increased damage. To counter this, when a living miasma hits a target, a tasty morsel will spawn. When someone picks up a morsel and then feeds it to Shad'har, the Hungry stacks will reset. The player who fed the morsel to Shad'har gets a debuff, preventing them from picking up another morsel and also dealing a moderate amount of ticking damage, lasting 3 minutes. You should feed Shad'har after every second miasma. You do not want to feed him after every single one, as the extra damage from more dots can become a significant problem later in the fight. Okay, now let's move on to the individual phases. In phase 1, position the boss near the middle of the platform. Everyone should dodge the breath and the swirlies. Tanks can handle crush and dissolve the same as they did in Heroic. As living miasmas come out, the raid should make sure to shift a bit towards the opposite side of where the miasma player is running. At 66%, you'll enter phase 2. You should lust immediately when you enter phase 2, and all DPS should use their cooldowns here. This is by far the most difficult and highest damage phase in the fight. Between the stacking dot from Entropic Mantle, the Entropic Breath ability, and the Entropic buildup on top of the living miasma explosions, this phase is just straight up nasty. You should have 2 to 3 people soak down each one of the entropic buildup orbs to help keep the explosion as small as possible. The raid should be spread out evenly around Shad'har, who should be directly in the middle of the room. The entropic breath is not dodgeable, so spreading is vitally important. Healers should use healing cooldowns here for when living miasma are exploding, as the explosion can very easily kill off people who are already at low health during this phase. At 33%, you'll move on to phase 3. On Mythic, this phase is actually not terribly difficult, and remains essentially the same as it was on Heroic. Don't stand in the puddles, slowly move the boss towards the edges as necessary, dodge the breath, and nuke down the boss. There's still a pretty good amount of AoE going on in this phase, but it is a step down in the throughput requirement from the end of phase 2. Healers should still use cooldowns as they become available.
Thanks for watching. We hope you found the guide helpful. If you'd like more details on this encounter or how it works, please click the link below to our written guide. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. You can also find the rest of our Ny'alotha boss guides right here on our channel or at complexity.gg. For more content like this, follow Complexity on Twitter and subscribe to their YouTube channel. To keep up with Limit's race for World First, follow them on Twitter. Happy raiding!